The massive communication dish on planet Kepler 442b turned slowly in the cold morning air. Ambassador Hyan watched the metal structure move as he sipped his hot drink. He was tall for his species, with blue skin that shimmered in the sunlight. His job was to help different alien races talk to each other. "Sir, we're getting something strange," said Nara from her desk. She was from the Quillan people, known for being very good with languages. Her 6 arms moved quickly over the control panels. "This signal is old. Really old." Hyan walked over to look at her screens. Numbers and symbols filled the display. "How old are we talking about?" "At least 2,000 years. Maybe more." Nara's voice was worried, but that's not the weird part. "It's written in hundreds of different languages. Some I've never seen before." The signal had been traveling through space for a very long time. It came from the outer edge of the galaxy, from a place most people called the Silent Zone. No ships went there anymore. The old government had made it forbidden territory long ago. "Can you translate any of it?" Hyan asked. Nara nodded slowly. "Some of it, yes. It's asking for help. The signal contains star maps, pictures of technology, and..." She paused. "And the locations of every major city in our galaxy." Hyan felt cold suddenly. "What do you mean?" "Someone or something knows where all our worlds are, and they're broadcasting this information as they travel through space." Within an hour, Council Archon Taman arrived at the station. He was the leader of this part of space, a serious man with gray fur and worried yellow eyes. He looked at the data on the screens and his expression grew dark. "This signal came from the Silent Zone?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Hyan replied. "It's moving toward the center of the galaxy at nearly light speed." Taman was quiet for a long moment. "Call Dr. Bora. We need her to look at this immediately." Dr. Bora arrived 2 hours later. She was the smartest scientist in the council, known for studying alien life forms. Her people were small and green with large eyes that could see things others missed. She looked at the signal data for a long time without speaking. "These biological markers," she finally said. "They don't match any known species in our records. What can you tell us about them?" Taman asked. Bora pointed at her screen. "Whatever sent this signal evolved under terrible conditions. High gravity, poisonous air, deadly radiation. Most of our people would die in minutes on their world." "But they survived?" Hyan asked. "More than survived. They grew strong because of it." Bora's voice was quiet. "There are old stories about creatures like this. We called them Deathworlders." Taman's face went pale. "Every child in the galaxy knew the stories about Deathworlders. Creatures so tough they could live anywhere, so strong they could break metal with their hands, so dangerous that the old government had tried to wipe them out completely." "You think they still exist?" Nara asked. "I think we're about to find out," Taman said. "This signal isn't just asking for help. It's telling everyone in the galaxy exactly where we live." The communication array kept receiving the signal. It was getting stronger each day as it moved closer to the populated worlds. Other stations across the galaxy were picking it up now too. Fear was spreading from planet to planet. Hyan spent the next few days learning everything he could about the Silent Zone. The records were old, and many were marked as secret. What he found made him afraid. 2,000 years ago, the hegemony ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. They conquered worlds and enslaved entire species. Then they found a small blue planet at the edge of space. The creatures there called themselves humans. At first, the humans seemed weak. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. The hegemony thought they would be easy slaves. They were wrong. The humans fought back with a fury that shocked everyone. They didn't just defend their world. They attacked hegemony ships with weapons that shouldn't have worked. They won battles they should have lost. 3 entire star systems went dark. Millions of hegemony soldiers just disappeared. Then suddenly it all stopped. The humans vanished back to their forbidden zone. The hegemony fell apart soon after. The new council government declared the area off-limits and tried to forget the humans ever existed. "Sir?" Nara called out, interrupting his reading. "We're getting response signals." Hyan hurried to her station. On the screen, massive energy readings were showing up at the edge of the Silent Zone. Someone was answering the call for help. "How big are those energy signatures?" Taman asked when Hyan called him. "Huge," Hyan replied. "Whatever is making them is much larger than our biggest ships." Dr. Bora ran more tests on the biological data. The results made everyone nervous. The creatures who sent the signal were not just tough. They had been getting stronger over the centuries. Their DNA showed signs of deliberate improvement. genetic changes that made them even more dangerous than their ancestors. They've been preparing, Bora told the emergency council meeting. For 2,000 years they've been getting ready for something. Preparing for what? Taman asked. To come home. The signal continued its journey toward the heart of the galaxy. Every day more response signals came from the silent zone. The energy readings were getting stronger. Ships were moving. A lot of ships. Hyun looked out at the stars and wondered what they had done. By intercepting that old signal, had they doomed the galaxy? Or had they simply awakened something that was already coming? In his quarters that night he read the old reports again. The humans had been traders once. Peaceful explorers who just wanted to see the galaxy. The hegemony had made them into something else through cruelty and slavery. What had 2,000 years of isolation done to them? What would they do when they arrived and found their distress signal had been received? Would they remember the species that had once enslaved them? Would they want revenge? The signal moved on through space, carrying with it the locations of every major world in the galaxy. Behind it, in the darkness of the silent zone, ancient engines were coming to life. The Deathworlders were returning, and no one knew if they came as saviors or conquerors. All they could do was wait and prepare for whatever emerged from the silence. Kyung had always loved old books and ancient records. As the council's main historian, he spent his days in the deep archives beneath the capital city. When Taman asked him to research the Great Silence, he knew he was in for something important. The Great Silence was a time most people wanted to forget. 2,000 years ago, 3 entire star systems had stopped talking to the rest of the galaxy. No signals, no ships, no contact at all. Then the hegemony government collapsed and everyone was too busy with wars to investigate. Kyung pulled files that hadn't been opened in centuries. Most were labeled top secret or destroy after reading. He worked through the night, finding pieces of a story that shocked him. The humans hadn't just been random aliens the hegemony found. They had been traders, explorers, even friends to some species. The files showed records of human merchants selling strange metals and beautiful art. Human scientists sharing medical knowledge that saved millions of lives. But then something changed. A hegemony admiral named Vexikar decided the humans would make perfect soldiers. They were strong. They healed quickly and they could survive in places that killed other species. He sent a fleet to their home world to capture them. The humans had tried to talk. The records showed dozens of messages asking for peace, offering to trade, begging the hegemony to leave them alone. Vexikar ignored them all. Captain Dohyun of the Council Defense Force arrived at the archives just as Kyung made his most disturbing discovery. Dohyun was a good soldier, respected by his troops and known for his calm thinking under pressure. What did you find? Dohyun asked. Kyung showed him a battle report from the hegemony files. The humans didn't just fight back. They were surgical about it. Look at this. The report described human ships attacking a hegemony base. Instead of destroying everything, they had carefully taken out only the military targets. The civilian areas were left completely untouched. Even the hegemony soldiers who surrendered were treated well and sent home. This doesn't sound like savage Deathworlders, Dohyun said. That's because they weren't savage, Kyung replied. They were trying to be merciful even while defending themselves. But mercy only went so far. As Kyung read deeper into the files, he found records of what happened when the hegemony kept pushing. The humans had asked for peace 17 different times. When their 18th message was answered with an attack on a human hospital ship, something in them snapped. The next battle reports were very different. Human ships started appearing where they shouldn't be possible. Hegemony fleets would be traveling through hyperspace and suddenly find humans waiting for them. Bases that should have been safe were attacked by soldiers who seemed to appear from nowhere. Mina joined them in the archives that evening. She was the Council's best strategic analyst, famous for being able to predict what enemies would do next. Her people were known for their mathematical minds and their ability to see patterns others missed. I've been calculating response times, she told them. If the humans still exist and if they've kept improving their technology like other species, they could be here in 3 months. 3 months? Dohyun looked worried. That's not enough time to prepare proper defenses. Defenses against what? Kyung asked. Look at these records. Every time the humans attacked, they targeted only military sites. They tried to avoid civilian casualties whenever possible. Mina spread her calculations across the table. That was 2,000 years ago. Isolation changes species. Look at the Krell Confederation after they were cut off for 500 years. They became completely different people. The three of them worked through the night building a picture of what the humans had been and what they might have become. The old record showed a species that was incredibly adaptable. They could change their bodies to survive in different environments. They could learn new skills faster than any other known species. They weren't just tough, Kyung realized. They were smart. Really smart. On the outer monitoring station, Woojin was having trouble sleeping. He was a communications officer, trained to listen for signals from across the galaxy. For the past 3 days, strange readings had been coming from the silent zone. At first, they looked like natural space phenomena. Solar flares maybe, or magnetic storms. But the patterns were too regular, too organized. Someone was sending messages in the forbidden zone, and the messages were getting stronger. Woojin called his supervisor and showed him the readings. Within an hour, the data was being sent to the capital. Within 6 hours, every major government in the galaxy had copies. The signals weren't random. They were organized, coordinated, like a military communication network coming online after a long sleep. Whatever was in the silent zone wasn't just responding to the distress signal. It was preparing. Back in the archives, Kyung made one final discovery that changed everything. Hidden in the deepest files was a record of the last known human transmission. It had been sent just before they disappeared into the silent zone. The message was simple and terrifying. We tried to be friends. We tried to be peaceful. We tried to be merciful. We will not make those mistakes again. Do-hyun read the message several times. They're not coming back as the same species that left. 2,000 years of isolation, Minha agreed. 2,000 years to think about what the galaxy did to them. 2,000 years to prepare. The response signals from the silent zone were getting stronger every day. Analysis showed massive energy signatures moving through space. Not just 1 or 2 ships, but entire fleets. The humans weren't just answering the distress call with a rescue mission. They were coming in force. We need to tell the council, Do-hyun said. Tell them what? Kyung asked. That we might have accidentally called back the most dangerous species in galactic history? That they might be coming for revenge? Or, Mina said quietly, that they might be coming to save whoever sent that distress signal. The question is, who sent it? The more they studied the original signal, the more confusing it became. It was definitely human in origin, but it came from outside the silent zone. That meant there were humans living beyond the quarantine area. Humans who had been under attack for months before their automated systems finally broke through to call for help. Someone had been hunting humans in secret. Someone had been attacking human colonies while keeping it hidden from the council. And now the human response fleet was coming to investigate. This isn't just about the past, Kyung realized. This is about something happening right now. The signal continued its journey through space, carrying with it not just a call for help, but evidence of a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of galactic government. Behind it, growing stronger each day, the response signals from the silent zone told of ships and fleets preparing for a return that would change everything. The question was no longer whether the humans were coming back. The question was what they would do when they discovered who had been hunting their people in the shadows. The ruins of New Busan Colony stretched across the valley like broken teeth. Captain Jinwoo led his investigation team through the wreckage, his enhanced eyes recording every detail. The human settlement had been home to 50,000 people just weeks ago. Now only silence remained. "Sir, over here," called Lieutenant Minho from beside a collapsed building. "You need to see this." Jinwoo approached and looked at what Minho had found. Blast marks from Council plasma weapons covered the walls, but scattered around them were different scorch patterns, signs that the colonists had fought back with weapons that left no recognizable signature. "They put up a hell of a fight," Jinwoo said quietly. "Look at this." "Sir?" Minho pointed to a section of ground where the earth had been fused into glass. "Whatever weapon made this, it's not in any council database." The investigation team spread out through the colony ruins. What they found told the story of a battle that should have been impossible. The attacking force had outnumbered the colonists 1,000 to 1. Advanced council warships against civilian settlers. It should have been a massacre. Instead, they found evidence that the humans had taken dozens of attackers with them. Crashed council fighters, destroyed ground vehicles, blast craters where human defenders had made their final stands, taking as many enemies as possible with them into death. Admiral Mian watched the tactical displays from the bridge of Terra's Fury. The Council fleets were moving into position around the human force, creating a perfect encirclement. 50,000 Council ships against 200 human vessels. By any reasonable calculation, it was hopeless. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The image of Admiral Youngjae appeared on the screen. He was a career military officer, respected throughout Council space for his honorable conduct and tactical skill. His expression was grim but determined. "Human fleet, I am Admiral Youngjae of the Council Defense Force. You are surrounded and vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to galactic military law." Mion smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Admiral Youngjae, I am Admiral Mion of the Terran Federation. We did not come here to fight you. We came to rescue our people and investigate crimes against our colonies. But if you insist on war, we will give you one you will never forget." "You're outnumbered 50-1, Youngjae replied. "This doesn't have to end in the complete destruction of your fleet." "Admiral," Mion said calmly, "you still don't understand what humans are capable of, but you're about to learn." The first attack came from 6 directions simultaneously. Council ships opened fire with everything they had, filling space with enough energy to cook a planet. Plasma beams, particle cannons, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles all converged on the human positions. The human ships didn't try to dodge. They flew straight into the firestorm like it was a gentle breeze. Council weapons that could punch through the hulls of capital ships bounced harmlessly off human armor. Energy beams that could melt asteroids were absorbed and redirected. The humans had spent 2,000 years preparing for this moment, and it showed. Captain Isol led her boarding party toward the Council flagship as space battle raged around them. Her team wore armor that looked like it had been forged in the heart of a star, each piece designed to let humans survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. "Breaching pod away," she reported as her assault craft launched toward the enemy ship. The pod punched through the flagship's hull like it was paper. Isol and her team poured into the Council ship, moving through corridors filled with toxic atmosphere and radiation that would kill most species in minutes. The Council crew had prepared for boarders. They had set up defensive positions, energy barriers, and automated weapons. It didn't matter. The humans went through their defenses like they weren't there. But instead of killing the defenders, Isol's team used stun weapons and sleep gas. They moved through the ship like they were conducting a police raid rather than a military assault. "Bridge secured," Isol reported 20 minutes later. "All crew alive and unharmed. Admiral Youngjae is ready to talk." The space battle raged for 3 hours. By the end, 40 Council ships had been destroyed and hundreds more disabled. The human fleet had lost exactly 0 vessels. More importantly, the humans had been careful about which ships they destroyed completely. Only the vessels that refused to surrender and continued attacking civilian transports were eliminated. Ships that withdrew when their weapons were disabled were allowed to leave unharmed. Admiral Youngjae sat across from Captain Isol in his own ready room, now a prisoner on his own ship. But she hadn't treated him like a prisoner. She had offered him food and medical attention for his injuries. "Why aren't you killing us?" he asked. "Because you're not the enemy," Isol replied. "You're soldiers following orders. The enemy is whoever gave you those orders." She activated a holographic display showing data recovered from the New Busan investigation. "Your people didn't attack that colony, but someone using your ships and your weapons did." Youngjae studied the evidence. The attacking ships had been modified Council vessels, but the modifications were all wrong. The weapon signatures didn't match official Council military patterns. The tactical approaches were clumsy, as if the attackers were trying to make it look like a Council operation while not understanding how Council forces actually fought. "Someone has been using our technology to attack your colonies," he realized. "For decades," Isol confirmed. "And now they've manipulated both our governments into a war that serves only their interests." The proof was overwhelming. Hidden in the data from the human colonies were records of ship identifications, weapon signatures, and communication intercepts. Someone within the Council government had been organizing raids on human settlements while publicly maintaining that humans were extinct. "There's more," Isol continued. "The original distress signal that brought us here. It wasn't just intercepted by your people. Someone made sure it reached both your government and ours at the same time." "A trap," Youngjae said. to eliminate both the human fleet and any council officials who might discover the conspiracy. 2 birds with 1 stone. As if summoned by their conversation, Hosung appeared in the doorway. He was the human fleet's chief tactician, famous for his ability to see patterns that others missed. His expression was grim. "Captain, we've identified the real enemy," he said. "Councilman Taehyun has been coordinating the attacks through a network of mercenary groups. But he's not working alone." The evidence Hosung presented was damning. Financial records showing payments to pirate groups, communication logs detailing attacks on human colonies, most damning of all, genetic samples taken from human prisoners and sold to research facilities. "He's been hunting your people for sport and profit," Young Jae said, his voice filled with disgust. "And now he's activated ancient weapon platforms throughout the galaxy," Hosung continued. "If we don't stop him, he'll eliminate both the current council leadership and our fleet in one coordinated strike." Isol looked at Admiral Young Jae. "Admiral, our species fought a war 2,000 years ago because we didn't trust each other. We can't afford to make that mistake again." Young Jae was quiet for a long moment. Everything he had been told about the humans was wrong. They weren't savage Deathworlders seeking conquest. They were a people trying to protect their colonies from systematic extermination. "What do you propose?" he asked. "An alliance. Your forces and ours. Working together to stop the real enemy before he destroys everything we've both spent centuries building." The decision that Admiral Young Jae made in that moment would change the course of galactic history. For the first time in 2 millennia, humans and the galactic community would stand together against a common threat. But first, they had to survive what Taehyun had prepared for them. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of the Terra's Fury and watched the stars that had been his prison for 2,000 years. He was tall and strong like all humans, but centuries of genetic improvement had made him something more. His bones were denser than steel. His blood could carry oxygen in conditions that would kill others. His mind could process information faster than most computers. The signal had reached them 3 days ago, breaking through the communication barriers that kept the silent zone isolated from the rest of the galaxy. It was a cry for help from humans who lived beyond the quarantine area, humans who were under attack. "Sir, Commander Soyoung has finished analyzing the signal," reported his aide. Commander Soyoung entered the bridge carrying a data tablet. She was one of the new generation of humans, born in the colonies inside the Silent Zone. Her people had adapted to life on worlds with crushing gravity and poisonous atmospheres. She was shorter than the Admiral but moved with the fluid grace of someone who could survive anywhere. "The signal came from Colony New Busan," she said. "They've been under attack for 4 months. Whoever is attacking them has been studying our people, learning our weaknesses." "Weaknesses?" Hunyo laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What weaknesses do we have left?" After the war with the hegemony, humanity had decided never to be weak again. They had spread to dozens of harsh worlds, each one making them stronger. They had improved their bodies through genetic modification and cybernetic enhancement. They had turned their children into living weapons who could survive in the vacuum of space. "The attackers are using council ships," Soyoung continued. "But the tactics are wrong. They're fighting like they expect us to be the same species that left the galaxy 2,000 years ago. That was their first mistake. The humans who had fled into the Silent Zone had been peaceful traders and explorers. The humans who lived there now were something entirely different. They were the children of war, raised on worlds that tried to kill them every day." Fleet Admiral Min Jae's image appeared on the communication screen. He was the supreme commander of all human forces, a man who had lived through the transformation of their species. His face was scarred from battles fought on a dozen different worlds. "Admiral Junho, you are authorized to deploy the Retribution Fleet. 200 ships, full combat configuration." "Sir, that's our entire deep space navy," Junho said. "I know. But if someone is hunting our colonies, we need to send a message they won't forget." Captain Yunbi of the destroyer Prometheus was already preparing her ship when the deployment orders came through. Her vessel was typical of human engineering. It looked crude and simple compared to council ships, but it was designed to fight in conditions that would destroy more elegant vessels. The hull was made from metals found only in the cores of dying stars. The weapons fired concentrated dark matter that could punch through any known shield. The crew could survive for hours in hard vacuum if necessary. Each ship was less a vessel than a mobile fortress crewed by the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. "Captain, we're detecting some unusual readings in the signal," reported her science officer. Yunbi looked at the data. Hidden within the distress call were tactical reports and battle analyses. The attacking forces weren't just random raiders. They were organized, well-equipped, and they had inside knowledge of human colony locations. Someone in the council. Government is behind this, she realized. Dr. Hannell had spent decades studying galactic politics from inside the silent zone as the human government's chief intelligence analyst. Her job was to monitor what happened in the outside galaxy. What she had discovered made her blood run cold. The attacks on human colonies weren't random acts of piracy. They were systematic, coordinated strikes designed to eliminate human settlements before they could grow large enough to defend themselves. Someone had been planning this for decades, maybe centuries, but there was something else in the data that worried her even more. The distress signal hadn't just been intercepted by the Council. It had been allowed to reach them. The communication barriers around the silent zone had been deliberately lowered, as if someone wanted the human fleet to receive the call for help. "Admiral," she said when she reached Junho, "this might be a trap." Junho studied her report. The evidence was clear. Someone in the galactic government had been secretly hunting human colonies while publicly maintaining that humans were extinct. Now they were using a distress signal as bait to draw the human fleet out of the silent zone. "They want us to come," he realized. "They want us to leave our protected space so they can finish what the hegemony started." "Sir, does it matter?" asked Commander Soyoung. "Our people are dying. We have to help them." Junho looked at his officers. 2,000 years ago, humans had tried to avoid war. They had run and hidden rather than fight. That decision had saved their species, but it had also cost them their place in the galaxy. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered, "but we go in ready for anything." The human ships began moving toward the edge of the silent zone. Each vessel carried weapons that could crack planets and crews that could survive almost anything. But more importantly, they carried 2,000 years of anger. The galaxy had tried to enslave them. When that failed, it had tried to forget them. Now it was trying to eliminate them completely. The humans were done being victims. As the fleet approached the boundary of their exile, long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures waiting just outside the silent zone. Council ships were already in position, as if they had been expecting the human response. "Sir, we're facing overwhelming numbers," reported the tactical officer. 50 council ships for every one of ours." "They still don't understand," Junho said quietly. "Numbers don't matter when you're fighting humans." The first ships crossed the boundary into open space for the first time in 2 millennia. Behind them came the rest of the fleet, 200 vessels crewed by beings who had been forged in the fires of the harshest worlds in the galaxy. They were no longer the peaceful traders who had fled the galaxy long ago. They were Deathworlders in the truest sense, creatures who had learned to thrive in conditions that would kill anything else. And they were coming home to a galaxy that had never stopped trying to destroy them. The signal that had summoned them continued its journey through space, carrying with it proof of crimes committed in the shadows. But it also carried something else, the promise that humanity would never again allow themselves to be hunted in silence. The war that had begun 2,000 years ago was about to resume. But this time the humans were ready. The human fleet emerged from dark space like ghosts returning to haunt the living. Captain Donghae led the scouting division in ships that should not have been able to exist. The hulls were covered in armor that could withstand the heat of stars. The weapons were built from technology that seemed both primitive and impossibly advanced. Every monitoring station within 50 light years detected their arrival immediately. The energy signatures were massive, far larger than anything in the Council records. The ships themselves looked like they had been built for war and nothing else. On the Council monitoring station at Proxima Base, alarms screamed through the corridors. Ambassador Yujin rushed to the communication center, her forearms moving quickly over the control panels. She had been trained in first contact protocols with unknown species, but nothing had prepared her for this. Unknown vessels. "This is Council Ambassador Yujin. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came immediately, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard. "This is Captain Seojin of the Terran Federation vessel New Sol. We are returning home. We ask only safe passage to recover our people and investigate attacks on our colonies. We have no quarrel with the current council, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." The voice was calm, almost friendly, but there was something underneath it. something that made Eugen's scales stand on end. These beings had the politeness of diplomats and the confidence of predators. General Kangman of the Council Defense Force was already mobilizing his interceptor fleet when he received Eugen's report. He was a veteran of dozens of conflicts, known for his tactical brilliance and his ability to remain calm under pressure. But the readings from the human ships made him nervous. "How many ships are we dealing with?" he asked his aide. 200 confirmed, sir, but they're like nothing in our databases. Each one appears to be the equivalent of one of our heavy battle cruisers. Kangman studied the tactical displays. The human ships were moving in perfect formation, their paths calculated to avoid all civilian traffic routes. They weren't acting like invaders, but they also weren't acting like anything the Council had dealt with before. "Deploy the Third Fleet to intercept," he ordered, "but tell them to maintain safe distance. I want to see what these humans can do before we engage." The first test came near the Centauri trade hub. 3 Council heavy cruisers moved to block the path of a single human destroyer. Captain Jinwoo of the CNS Liberty watched them approach on his screens. "Sir, they're demanding we stop for inspection," reported his communications officer. "Tell them we have urgent business and will submit to inspection after we complete our rescue mission." Jinwoo replied. The Council ships powered up their weapons. Plasma cannons and particle beams locked onto the human vessel. In any normal situation, 1 ship against 3 would be hopeless. Jinwoo smiled. "Humans didn't believe in normal situations. All hands prepare for combat. Remember, we want them alive and unharmed if possible. These might be the good ones." The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. The human ship moved like nothing the Council had ever seen, twisting and turning in ways that should have torn it apart. Its weapons fired dark matter compressed into beams of pure destruction that went through Council shields like they weren't there. But instead of destroying the Council ships, the humans disabled them with surgical precision. Weapons gone, engines crippled, life support intact. Not a single Council crew member was killed. When it was over, Captain Jinwoo opened a communication channel to the disabled ships. "Council vessels, your crews are unharmed. We have uploaded repair instructions to your computers. We suggest you return to base and report that humans prefer not to fight when possible." The message spread through Council space faster than light-speed communication. The humans were back. They were impossibly powerful and they were showing mercy to those who attacked them first. But not everyone wanted peace. In the deepest levels of the Council government, Taehyun met with his secret allies. He was a member of the ruling assembly, but his real loyalty was to profit and power. For decades, he had been organizing raids on human settlements, selling human prisoners to laboratories that wanted to study Deathworlder biology. "The humans are lying," he told the emergency assembly session. "Our intelligence shows their colonies were actually staging areas for an invasion. They've been planning this return for centuries." He displayed fabricated evidence on the main screen, false documents showing human weapons being built, fake communications about invasion plans, computer-generated images of human soldiers preparing for war. "We cannot allow these Deathworlders to return to civilized space," he continued. "They are a threat to every peaceful species in the galaxy. We must stop them now while we still can." Ambassador Hyun watched the presentation with growing alarm. He had studied the original signal and knew Taehyun was lying. But the other Council members were frightened, and frightened beings made poor decisions. "What do you propose?" asked Archon Taeman. "Total war," Taehyun replied. "We mobilize every fleet in Council space. We destroy the human force before it can reach our core worlds." The vote was close, but fear won over wisdom. By a margin of just 3 votes, the Council declared the human fleet a hostile force and authorized unlimited military response. Within hours, fleets from 6 different species were moving toward the human positions, ships by the thousands, carrying enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. The humans would face overwhelming odds just as Taehyun had planned, but Admiral Junho had expected betrayal. 2,000 years of isolation had taught humanity many things, including the importance of being ready for treachery. "Sir, Council fleets are moving to surround us," reported Commander Soyoung. "How many ships?" 10,000. "Maybe more." Junho studied the tactical displays. The Council had committed everything to this battle. If the humans lost here, there would be no second chance for their species. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "We tried to come in peace. We offered to cooperate, but they have chosen war instead. Very well. Let's remind the galaxy why they feared us in the first place." The human ships began to change. Hull sections that had seemed like simple armor plating opened to reveal weapon systems. Crews that had looked like normal traders put on combat suits that turned them into walking weapons. Captain Seojin broadcast one final message to the approaching Council fleets. You have made your choice. We will make ours. To any Council ship that withdraws now, we offer safe passage. To those who continue to attack us, we offer only defeat. Not a single Council ship turned back. The trap was set. The humans were outnumbered 50-1, surrounded by the combined might of the galactic government, facing an enemy that wanted nothing less than their complete extinction. But Taehyun had made one critical mistake in his calculations. He had assumed the humans who returned would be the same species that had fled the galaxy 2,000 years ago. He was about to discover how wrong he could be. The alliance between humans and Council forces changed everything. Admiral Youngjae worked with Admiral Myeon to coordinate their fleets, while Captain Isul led combined strike teams against the ancient weapon platforms that Taehyun had activated throughout the galaxy. Council leader Siwoo arrived at the battle zone aboard his personal flagship, bringing with him proof of Taehyun's treachery. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records showing payments to mercenary groups, communication logs detailing attacks on human colonies. Most damning of all, genetic samples taken from human prisoners and sold to laboratories for experimentation. Councilman Taehyun has been operating a shadow government for decades, Siwoo told the emergency session. He's been profiting from the systematic elimination of human settlements while telling us that humans were extinct, but Lieutenant Chae-young discovered something even more disturbing in the captured data files. The weapon platforms Taehyun had activated weren't just targeting humans. They were programmed to eliminate anyone who might expose his conspiracy, including most of the current Council leadership. Sir, these platforms are ancient hegemony designs, she reported to Admiral Ji-sung. They're designed to sterilize entire worlds of all life forms. Admiral Ji-sung studied the tactical displays showing the weapon platforms coming online across the galaxy. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a planet, and there were dozens of them. If they all activated simultaneously, billions would die. How long do we have? He asked. 6 hours until the platforms reach full power, Chae-young replied. Then we'd better move fast. The human and Council fleets split into strike groups, each one targeting a different weapon platform. Captain Yuna led the first combined team to the Vega platform, the largest and most heavily defended installation. Working together, humans and Council forces proved devastatingly effective. Human tactical expertise combined with Council technology created strategies that neither side could have developed alone. The platforms that should have taken hours to disable fell within minutes. Human Team 7, this is Council Squadron 6, came a transmission over the battle network. We're reading massive energy buildups in your sector. Do you need assistance? Negative, Council 6, replied the human team leader. We've got this. But thanks for watching our backs. It was the first time in 2,000 years that humans and other galactic species had fought side by side as allies rather than enemies. The final confrontation came at the Nexus Core, the galaxy's central communication hub. Taehyun had made his last stand there, surrounded by the few mercenary forces still loyal to him. But he wasn't just a corrupt politician anymore. The years of secret power had twisted him into something darker. Captain Minho of the human assault ship, Dauntless worked alongside Engineer Salmon from the Council Technical Corps to disable the Nexus defense systems. Despite coming from completely different worlds, they found they worked well together. The human approach is so direct, Salmon said as Minho used brute force to tear apart an energy barrier. The Council way is elegant, Minho replied as Salmon's precise calculations disabled a weapon system with surgical accuracy. Maybe we can learn from each other. The battle for the Nexus Core lasted 3 hours. Taehyun's forces fought with the desperation of beings who knew they faced execution for their crimes, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered by the combined human Council force. When the fighting finally ended, Taehyun stood alone in the central control chamber, surrounded by the evidence of his crimes. The man who had once been a respected Council member now looked like what he had always been, a predator who had grown fat on the suffering of others. You don't understand, he told his captors. The humans are Deathworlders. They'll consume the galaxy if we don't stop them. Admiral Junho entered the chamber, flanked by Admiral Youngjae. The two commanders had become unlikely allies. bonded by their shared commitment to protecting innocent lives. "Councilman Taehyun," Junho said calmly, "you're under arrest for crimes against humanity and violations of galactic law." "I was protecting the galaxy from your kind," Taehyun snarled. "You were murdering civilians for profit," Youngjae corrected. "There's a difference." The revelation of Taehyun's conspiracy sent shockwaves through galactic society. For decades, he had been organizing attacks on human settlements while publicly supporting the quarantine that kept humans isolated. He had turned the galaxy's fear of Deathworlders into a profitable business built on genocide. But his defeat also opened new possibilities. For the first time in 2 millennia, humans and the galactic community could work together openly. The joint colonies established in the aftermath of the crisis became symbols of what cooperation could achieve. Human engineering combined with council science created settlements that could thrive in conditions that would challenge either species alone. Captain Yuna, now promoted to admiral, oversaw the first joint exploration mission beyond the galactic rim. Her crew included humans, council species, and even some former mercenaries who had switched sides during the final battle. "Sensors are detecting an inhabitable system 12 light-years ahead," reported her science officer. "Set course," Yuna ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The galaxy had changed. The signal that had once threatened to summon destruction had instead summoned hope. Humans were no longer the mysterious Deathworlders hiding in the silent zone. They were partners in a larger community, contributing their strength and resilience to projects that benefited everyone. On Earth, now reopened to galactic contact, children learned about aliens who had once been enemies but were now friends. On Council worlds, young beings studied human adaptability as an example of what life could accomplish under the harshest conditions. The fear that had separated the species for 2,000 years was replaced by curiosity and respect. Humans weren't the savage conquerors of legend. They were survivors, innovators, and protectors who had learned to thrive in impossible conditions. And when new threats emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies, they faced them together. The children of 1,000 worlds united by the understanding that diversity was strength, and cooperation was survival. The signal had crossed into alien space carrying a message of distress. It departed carrying something far more valuable, proof that even the most bitter enemies could become the strongest allies when they chose understanding over fear. In the end, the Deathworlders had indeed returned to change the galaxy, but instead of bringing destruction, they had brought the possibility of something better, a future where no species stood alone against the darkness, and the strength of one became the strength of all. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.